be taking a journey down south, to a country that has been in the news repeatedly since 2013 due to hyperinflation, refugee crises, and government instability. We will be visiting Venezuela. Our names are Victoria
and Archita,
and we are students at Dartmouth College.
In our analysis today, we aim to help you understand how Venezuela can modify its procedures and policies in order to recreate and prolong broad-based and sustainable growth. We will be operating under the assumption that government stability has already ensued in the nation. It is important to note that not all of our sources come directly from the Venezuelan government, as many of their operations are non-functional or not public information.
Venezuela sits at the top of South America. The country has 27.53 million people, with its main revenue source being oil exportation. By sector, in 2017, the GDP breakdown was 4.7% in agriculture, 40.4% in industry, and 54.9% in services. Its current GDP is $271.42 billion. However, it has been decreasing since 2013, which is when current President Maduro began his term. In fact, Venezuela's GDP is declining at a faster rate than the other developing countries, whose annual GDP change has remained relatively stagnant. Venezuela sits on a large deposit of oil, which usually indicates an opportunity for stability and prosperity, right?
Well, not quite in Venezuela. Venezuela was a very large oil exporting country. Oil output has decreased significantly due to bad management decisions, corruption, undersupply, and recent politically motivated U.S. sanctions. A sharp decline in the price of oil in 2014 magnified already present inflation issues. However, President Maduro and the central bank continued to print money to fund the government, allowing the bolivar to decrease by 99% of its 2013 worth. Venezuela has seen 4.6 million people leave the country, roughly 16% of the current population. Venezuela has been having trouble with public safety, unemployment, property security, entrepreneurship, among many other issues. However, we believe that the two key sectors requiring improvement in order to achieve broad-based, sustainable economic growth are education and health.
Venezuela should improve health accessibility in order to stimulate the labor force participation rate and improve productivity through overall well-being. Government expenditure on healthcare has been consistently decreasing since President Maduro's term began. The graph on the right shows the rapid decline in health spending, which has exacerbated the three following issues. Firstly, because of government instability along with a lack of resources, Venezuelans are facing shortages of medications and supplies. This produces obstacles to health improvement while propagating one person's bad health through negative externalities. The Venezuelan Society of Cardiology reports that 88% of public reference centers cannot perform blood tests, 68% do not have prescribed medicines, and 92% do not even have aspirin. Overall, the per capita drug consumption in the country dropped by 93% between 2014 and 2018. The shortage of medication is 85% in pharmacies and 88% in hospitals. A lack of access to medicine and correct hospital procedure prevents work productivity and has potential negative externalities of spreading sickness throughout the population.
Secondly, there is a simple lack of sanitation in the country. As this implies a basic human need is not being met, the lack of cleanliness further propagates issues with workers' health, as well as the overall safety standards for a decreasing healthy population. 79% of hospitals do not even receive water on a regular basis, generating serious hygiene problems for remaining staff and patients.
Thirdly, we see that Venezuela suffers from a lack of hospitals and doctors that can provide for patients needing immediate care. Between 2012 and 2017, 55% of medical personnel, 24% of nurses, and 30% of lab technicians had resigned and left the country. As an example, this lack of available medical attention affects pregnant women who are currently receiving little to no care, forcing them to flee the country to receive treatment. From 2015 to 2016 alone, maternal mortality rates in Venezuela rose to 66%, and infant mortality rates rose to 30%. As the declining healthcare in Venezuela reveals a lack of broad-based human rights, it also highlights a plausible association with less workers through illness, a lower well-being through negative externalities, and unsustained growth through an unhappy public. We believe that it is exceedingly important that the health issues in Venezuela are addressed. Once a new government is in place, it is imperative that Venezuela prioritizes three key solutions.
Number 1. Venezuela should accept the humanitarian aid provided by international agencies, which is currently barred by the government. It can also take out a loan for more medical supplies and overall health benefits, which it can eventually pay back with the increased productivity resulting from the sick members of its population rejoining the labor force. Number 2. Venezuela should install incentives for doctors and other medical professionals to return to the country or to continue their practices by either raising wages, providing government-funded meals, increasing vacation time, or allocating housing. More doctors will be willing to partake in Venezuelan society. Number 3. The new Venezuelan government can create policies that allocate more government funds to healthcare and hospitals. Budget cuts in the form of its oil industry development can occur in order to make this happen. Good healthcare is essential for a happy society. In order to encourage broad-based, sustainable growth, more of Venezuela's workers should be able to work longer without becoming more susceptible to illness, and they should receive aid if they do. Another necessity for increased growth is developing the primary, secondary, and post-secondary education systems. Improving these will in turn promote technological advances as well as increase research and development, increasing GDP with Venezuela's growing asset, its workers. Venezuela faces 3 main challenges with respect to education. Firstly, student absences from primary and secondary schools have increased. Some of the reasons why include the unaffordable costs of uniforms, bus fares, and supplies that are required to attend, as well as because the schools have stopped providing food. As seen in the graph, the percent of primary-age students absent from school has steadily increased since Maduro's presidency began in 2013, and is at its highest rate in the past 20 years.
Secondly, according to Fundación Redes, a Venezuelan think tank, and El Nacional, a Venezuelan newspaper, close to 50% of students have dropped out of university over the past few years. This decrease in post-secondary education reveals a decline in the efficiency of the working population. 57% of migrants in Peru have a higher degree, demonstrating the brain drain caused by Venezuelan emigration. Thirdly, Venezuela has seen a large decrease in the number of its faculty. Many teachers are not incentivized to teach because the real wage rate is not high enough. The National Teachers Union claimed that in September of 2019, 550,000 teachers did not go to work because of the mere $8 wages. Instead, they either left the country or are getting involved in the illegal gold mines in Venezuela. Moreover, over 1,600 professors have left the nation's top 5 universities since 2012 in response to this fall in wages. In August, President Maduro said he would aid these schools by employing members of the ruling youth party, however unfit or unprepared they were for the job. The number of teachers is also decreasing, with the largest pedagogical university graduate count falling 70% between 2014 and 2018. The high number of migrants, both on account of students and educators, is causing a brain drain in Venezuela. In order to reform the education system, the negative effects of this brain drain must be reversed. There are 3 solutions that fix this.
Number 1. In order to guarantee that teachers stay in school, Venezuela could incentivize them with extra wages, bonuses, free meals, or vacation times. Number 2. Venezuela could also benefit students by subsidizing uniforms or by providing free lunches to students that have protein, a program that previously existed but does not have funding anymore. Number 3. Venezuela could access more of the gains from education by providing incentives for the population to pursue postgraduate opportunities. They could do this either by expanding the number of opportunities available or subsidizing them, or by giving monetary bonuses to research and development. Increasing these opportunities will in turn allow more children to go to school and receive a better quality education. This can promote entrepreneurship, research and development, and technology in Venezuela.
Today, we talked about 2 policy changes to improve public goods and establish basic human rights in Venezuela. While both healthcare accessibility and an increase in education are important necessities, we believe that healthcare reform should be enacted with more immediacy. This is because improving standard sanitation and health provisions can draw more people back into the country and have an immediate effect on the working population. This in turn could increase the teaching and student populations as well. However, it also may take an excessive amount of funds. Education remains a long-term pursuit as it will more so affect new generations of workers and the future of innovation and technology in the country. Hence, this return is not entirely immediate and may not have a significant impact for a few years. Both services require a restructuring of government and more incentives for teachers and doctors, which may be difficult to achieve. However, allocating funds from sectors like defense spending or government financing could provide an easier pathway for broad-based sustainable growth.
Once Venezuela's political instability is solved, it is essential that the main policies and actions taken to achieve broad-based sustainable growth are improving education and health. Thank you for coming with us on our journey. We hope you learned something.